Hey everybody, welcome to today's Feather webinar. I'm joined by two lovely guests, Elizabeth Johnson of Big Red M and Brock Edgar, our very own Feather rep here. So they'll be sharing lots of insights today on sponsorships, digital sponsorships, how you can get a little bit more creative with more traditional sponsorships, live events, all these things. So we'll dive into some intros and the content in just a couple minutes, but want to give everyone just a minute to trickle in. So go ahead and drop in the chat where you're joining from today so we can kind of get the chat kicked off. We were just talking, the three of us, about weather because Rock is in Colorado with inches and inches of snow to shovel, and Elizabeth and I are both in Florida. So nice to not have to deal with the snow, although I am a little jealous.
Wait, was that another Fort Collins, Colorado, and a Colorado Springs? No kidding.
Oh, neighbors. Yeah, two Fort Collins. Oh no, two Colorados. Nice. Some Florida people.
No, I think there are two Fort Collins here. Heather, maybe I'll see you at a brewery later.
It's the only place you can congregate. Uh,
Beer warm
Rockville.
when nothing else works.
Yeah. I love Rockville. We were just talking about the DC area too, because Elizabeth lived there for many years and it's so beautiful. Rockville is actually where I have some friends that I've spent a lot of time with. And it's like, yeah, I feel like suburban, just like the surrounding areas in Maryland are
Mhm.
my favorite. Cool. It sounds like we've got sunshine and snow, pretty much one or the other.
A lot of snow
Yeah.
lately.
Puerto Rico. Okay. Nice. Tropical vibes.
Oh,
Cool.
and
All right.
Collinsville, Wisconsin is where I grew up. I know that very well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I didn't know you were from Wisconsin until we went to an event together, nonprofit storytelling conference a couple weeks ago, and Brock shared that he was from Wisconsin, and we were like, wait a second, is there an accent hiding under that?
I
Uh,
think if you get out early enough, like I have friends from Boston and they don't really like their parents have it pretty thick.
yeah,
Yeah, if they like left and went to college, they tend not to have it.
yeah, for sure. Cool. All right. Well, I think we can go ahead and get started. So for anyone who just joined, we're going to be talking all about sponsorships today, how you can modernize your sponsorship offerings, get more creative with live event sponsorships, and move a little bit more in the digital direction with sponsorships if you haven't already. So I'm joined by Brock Edgar from Feather and Elizabeth Johnson from Big Red M, a partner that Feather works really closely with. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it off to you, Elizabeth, to get started with the content.
Sure. Thanks. Thanks so much for having me. Thanks to Issa and Brock. So today we're talking about unlocking sponsorships and digital ad revenue. So there's lots of ways that you can kind of slice and dice the sponsorship game. What I'm going to do is let me show you a oops, slide here. We're going to be looking at a few different ways. So the first is really looking at non-dues revenue, right? So obviously sponsorship is part of that. What else does that include? This is where the digital revenue aspect starts to kind of play into that. So we'll take a bigger look at non-dues revenue. Then we'll hone in a little bit on types of sponsorships. So what are there? Looking at live events, but also annual options. One of the things that we wanted to provide in today's discussion also is how we can make sure that our sponsors are getting that value from the sponsorship program, because obviously if they're getting that value, they're going to be returning again and again. So what can we do to make sure our sponsors are getting that return, getting the value from being engaged with you? And then of course, increasing sponsors and revenue and some prospectus building. And then we're going to close it with some questions actually to you, the audience. We'll take questions as well and move from there. So just kind of a quick intro. So Big Red M, we have been here for 15 years in the association space. We started out providing membership and sponsorship sales for hire, then went into association consulting in every facet, membership, sponsorship, strategic planning, things of that nature. We also do publishing. We have a publishing arm that designs and sells advertising, both digital and print, for associations around the country. Myself, I've sold for over 100 associations, selling membership and sponsorship over the years. created, priced, and revised prospectuses as part of consulting, provided go-to-market strategy for new associations or new event sponsorships as well. I'm currently the EVP of consulting, and besides that, I also provide consulting in membership, sponsorship, strategy, and coaching. Brock, you want to introduce yourself real quick?
Yeah, thank you. So I'm Brock. I'm the customer success team lead here at Feathr. And Isa and Elizabeth were kind enough to bring me into this call because I've run run and overseen hundreds of sponsored ad campaigns in Feathr through my time here so far, and I'm expecting to run hundreds more as well. So I can offer the Feathr perspective and share a little bit of insight into how to run and why to run these campaigns in Feathr.
Great, thanks. So again, kind of pulling out from just the sponsorship area and looking at non-dues revenue, we're just going to presume that, we're all working on different levels here and have different knowledge bases of this. So kind of a quick overview. Non-dues revenue, that includes anything that, of course, is not association revenue, association membership revenue. So for some associations, non-dues revenue tends to be a fractional, right? Most of their revenue is coming in from their association membership dues. There are some organizations, though, where non-dues revenue actually makes up the majority of their revenue, and they use that money to provide financial support for their membership services, to work with their public policy, things of that nature. But the standard we tend to see in this space is that it's really heavier in membership dues with a smaller fraction coming from non-dues revenue. However, that non-dues revenue can encapsulate many different areas, as the graphic here shows. I think oftentimes our default is it's trade shows and events, right? It's exhibit sales, it's sponsorship sales, things like that. But of course, it also includes digital advertising, which we're talking about today, websites, newsletters, premier listings, banner ads, things like that. It also includes things like education. That is a non-dues revenue, right? Educational content, certifications, what am I missing here? Show guides, special emails. There's all sorts of things, job boards. This all falls within the non-dues category. But again, for today's conversation, we're really keeping it around sponsorship and advertising, both virtual, digital, and live events. So what kind of fits within those areas? From live events, obviously, you have your meeting sponsorship, you have tabletop and exhibit sales, and there's also some digital offerings around live events, which Brock will be speaking about a little bit later. From a digital virtual standpoint, we just mentioned these website ads, newsletter ads, sponsored research. This is one you might not have heard before. This is where instead of an organization just making a white paper or a document on something industry specific, they actually either do it or have it paid for by a sponsor. It highlights a sponsor as somebody that's involved in the industry, cares what's going on, is as a trusted source. So sponsored research is another thing that we see in this kind of digital virtual options. And then sponsored retargeting. Again, Brock will be speaking to that in a little bit. We also have annual sponsorships. I've been working with more and more associations, primarily in the trade side, that are utilizing annual sponsorship programs. So this is getting out from just that 1-2 meetings a year where sponsors are getting that benefit for that 3 or 4 day event and really getting benefit from a full 365-day engagement with the association. I'll speak to a little bit more about that later. I did want to provide, I know people are always asking, like, what's going on in sponsorships? So I wanted to give just a few kind of things that we're seeing. Again, speaking to the value that our sponsors want to see. For several years, there has been a trend, and I say this because I interview sponsors almost every day when I'm providing sponsorship consulting work. There is a trend from getting away from the transactional, what we call like the coffee sponsorship, where I pay $2,500 and you put my name next to the coffee carafe on the table, and that's kind of the end of that. Sponsors want more opportunities to engage, to leave a lasting impression on attendees and on members of the event. So some of the things that we've kind of been talking about lately with some clients are things that really enhance the members' experience at the event that can also be sponsored. For the first bullet, we were working with an association where they had a marketing conference. all the attendees of the event were marketers of these various brands. So we put together the idea of having polling throughout the event, and that data that's being collected by all the attendees goes to the sponsoring company. And right, and so they can repurpose and utilize that data to provide thoughtful content back to the attendees, back to their prospects later. That's super valuable. An interactive wall, there's a graphic here. We've seen some really great things, particularly in the international circuit, of groups that are using interactive walls with lighting and things like that to engage and enhance members' experience at trade shows. Wellness session, we hear a lot. Obviously, we've seen the yogas, the 5Ks, looking at something new, meditation, a weighted vest walk. I have a group that does a pickleball challenge. So trying to keep it fresh and updated to things that people want to do and maybe try something they've never tried before. This is a great place to do it. It'll be free. It's a great way for them to do that. Similarly, we hear more and more from members that, they're stuck in a conference room all day long. They might have a reception at the end of the day. Maybe that reception is outside, on the courtyard of the conference hall of where they are. They're looking for more opportunities to kind of engage outside that typical, we're talking about business, I'm exchanging business cards. As a sponsor, I want to do something fun and leave an impression on people. We've talked about happy hour trivia or various types of games that you can provide that give people a chance to kind of loosen up a little bit and engage on a social level. Similarly, offsite event excursion. Again, these folks are trapped all day long. I was at a conference in Maine 2 weeks ago. I was in the conference room from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. every day. I hardly got to see Maine. But if associations can plan more offsite events and excursions and give the sponsor a chance to sponsor that, again, that enhances their entire experience of the event. And that's something that sponsors want to be paired with, right? They want to be thought of in a positive light like that and be able to be a part of that experience. When we're looking at sponsorships, we typically see that there's four different buckets that they fall in, if you will, right? And this is the way that we talk to sponsors about it. What are your goals? Are you looking to network? Are you looking to provide thought leadership? Are you looking for branding? Or are you looking to reach them on a digital ad space? And within that, that's where our sponsorships are kind of carved out of. So with networking, these are the ones where our attendees are connecting with one another. They're at a reception, but can we do that and make it in a different way? Happy hour, trivia. If there's no dinners planned, you can schedule or organize diner rounds, which are where the organization actually plans the dinners in small groups. The association plans it, and the sponsor only has to pay for it. They show up and they have a private dinner for 10 people. They pay the bill. Hopefully, they pay a little bit more on top to the association, and it's a great experience for them. Matchmaking, we see more organizations moving away from tabletops and traditional exhibits and doing these matchmaking scenarios where you're setting appointments and you're getting together with potential customers face to face for a set number of time and then moving on to the next one. Thought leadership. This is something a lot of associations tend to steer away from because they think it's very much pay to play. I'm going to give you $10,000 and you're going to give me 30 minutes of stage time. It doesn't have to be that way. There's lots of different ways that you can offer thought leadership to sponsors without selling out completely. Yes, oftentimes it looks like a speaker slot. Yes, sometimes it looks like a webinar. But one of the ways I've seen it utilized really well is if it's an MC of a session. So you could have three panelists that are maybe your members or are industry experts, and your sponsor can just be the one emceeing the session. So they're not standing there talking for 30 minutes about themselves. They're asking questions that you, the association, could have even provided to them. And, but they love it. They love the stage time. They love being looked at somebody that's a trusted resource. And it's a great way to have them on a stage to kind of fit that thought leadership goal they're looking for without completely selling out. White paper is another way to do that. Those can be provided all during the year. But it's really great to do it at the event as well. I've seen some sponsors that will do a room drop, and in that room drop, when they're putting a box of chocolates or something like that on their bed, it includes a well thought out and designed informational piece. about the sponsor or something that they've accomplished as of recently. Branding, there's all sorts of different branding ideas. I just threw a couple in here just to look at something outside of your typical lanyards and gift bags and things like that. Some of the coolest giveaways that I've seen have actually come from sponsors. So always ask your sponsors, what are you doing at other places? And we'd be open to doing that here. Leave room for creativity and see what they're giving away that seems to be really valued or gifts that they're doing and be open to doing that with them. We've also seen some really great usage of using local surroundings or local signage and personalizing that. Indianapolis does something like this. If you're interested in something that's very specific to the location you're at, call the CVB. They always have a number of great sponsorship ideas that involve kind of the outside and involve the city yourself. We've seen wraps on transportation and buses, and then also branded lighting at evening events, right? So you can sponsor the reception, but what if the sponsor's name was up on the wall when you walked into the room or walked into the venue? So there's some really great things that you can do for branding that step outside of, having your names on the pens or something like that. And then finally, there's sponsored retargeting. And I'll let Brock speak a little bit more to that because this is definitely his wheelhouse.
All right, thanks. I will say before I get started with sponsored retargeting that at the conference that Isa and I were at, we had some Feathr branded socks that were just the hit of the entire conference. So people sought us out for those. If you're looking for something, try socks. All right, but yeah, let's talk about Feathr and sponsored retargeting. So, Elizabeth, that'll be the next slide here. You can offer this not only for events, but also year-round. And in a nutshell, sponsored retargeting is when you're selling direct access to your online audience. So this audience might be your members, your event attendees, or it can be all of the people visiting your website. But the great thing about this kind of campaign is your sponsors will be happy to pay a premium fee to get their message in front of the one of the most well-matched industry audiences, which is your audience. So how does this work? You've probably already used campaigns like retargeting to promote your own organization and its efforts. Sponsored retargeting is simply offering the same opportunity to your sponsors for a fee. So here's the nuts and bolts of it. Your sponsor will provide you with their digital ads and whatever landing pages those ads should lead to. Then you run those ads for them like you'd run your own retargeting campaign. And the reason this works so well and doesn't compete with the ads that you or your other sponsors are running is because retargeting is so personalized to each member's online journey. That this isn't about filling one static slot with an ad, in which case you'd have to choose just one or rotate out ads pretty quickly. With retargeting, your ads and all of your sponsors' ads are showing up dynamically as your members browse online, on social media, and on their mobile devices. You're simply showing up in those available ad placements as they go about their day. And that means your ads about an upcoming event can show up on one site, and then the next site that someone visits, they might see an ad from one of your sponsors about a relevant product offering. And then they could see a different sponsor's ad later that same day. So you're simply fitting into the online experience that your members are already having, and you're bringing your sponsors into that experience as well and charging them for that access. And in this screenshot here, we have an example of what that might look like if someone is on Food Network looking up a recipe. So we have some examples on the next slide of sponsors and partners who might be interested in advertising directly to your audience. So these could be previous sponsors who have shown interest already and might be looking for a more modern or year-round way to stay in front of relevant industry audiences like yours. Could be industries and speakers that might want to run ads to let your members know that they'll be at your conference or even another conference. They might also want to follow up with event attendees to stay on their radar after the event is over. So when it comes to the audience that you're giving your sponsors access to, this can look a few different ways. Through site retargeting, you can serve your sponsor's ads to anyone who has visited any page on your website within the last 30 days, or 60 or 90 or 7 days, or whatever you want. You can narrow this down and serve ads to people who visit specific high intent pages only, like members only pages or event registration pages. You can also do CRM retargeting on behalf of sponsors, which means you're serving those same online ads to people in your email lists. So that could be event attendees, registrants for an upcoming event, all of your members, or even your entire email database. It really just depends on what your sponsor is trying to reach, and you can work with them to determine what audience works best for their goals. So, like I mentioned before, this is a really scalable sponsor offering because it's virtually unlimited in terms of ad space. Unlike an email newsletter placement or a sponsored banner on your website, sponsored retargeting allows you to show ads multiple times for multiple sponsors within the same time frame, and also on the sites where they're already spending most of their time. So this doesn't have to be tied to an event, and that's great for you because it opens up a year-round non-dues revenue stream. And it's great for sponsors because it really helps them stay in front of relevant audiences throughout the year. So we have an on-demand webinar that goes more in depth into how to package, price, and pitch sponsored retargeting. But there's a lot of flexibility in how you can do this because it's such a value add for sponsors. We usually see the association covering the media spend to serve ads in their marketing platform and then pricing the sponsorship at about 4 to 5 times that spend. So you can track everything. Ad impressions, clicks to the sponsor's landing page, spend performance. You can easily report this back to the sponsor. Feathr has shareable dashboards that make it easy for the sponsor to see what's happening in real time, which can build credibility and transparency around the value too. And like I said, we have a lot more resources on this if you're interested, but I'll pass it back to Elizabeth now to talk about how to put things together into an appealing offer for your sponsors.
Thanks, Brock. Yeah, and actually, I meant to say real quick. So I meant to, when I was going to introduce you, I forgot to say, we actually, the reason we have a relationship with Feathr is that I was recommending sponsorships for one of our clients that we were selling ads for. We did a magazine or show ads at their large conference, and my salesperson, God bless her, she's so good. She sells out every year. And you're like, well, how else can we make more money, right? We only have so much space in the program. We increase the price every year. And so then we decided to bring in Feathr to sell kind of that unlimited real estate that Brock spoke about. And we've been doing that for a few years. It's been going really well. So it's a great opportunity, like you said, to add more kind of real estate in an area that you might be a little bit more limited. We've found a lot of success around it for this specific group that has a show. But as you mentioned, it's something you can do year round as well. Speaking of year round, as mentioned, there's annual sponsorship is another option that we see available, and primarily trending with groups that have multiple events through the year and have sponsors that are, willing to spend money and looking for more places to do it. When you have an annual sponsorship program, essentially this is providing 365 days of exposure to the sponsor, not just around the event itself. Typically, there's three types of annual sponsorship programs that we see. The first is kind of this preset level where you spend 25, 50, 75, $100,000 and you get all these things, right? They're things that are probably primarily not for sale. Maybe it's for sale a la carte, but we're going to tell you exactly what you're going to get for that price. And then throughout the year, we'll recognize you as, a diamond sponsor or what have you. The second is a customize. With this one, you're looking at, picking one from column A, two from column B, and three from column C type of thing, almost to choose your own adventure. And the number you get to pick and the columns you pick are based upon the price that you're paying. Again, you'd still be recognized as a certain level sponsor all throughout the year. And then the other one that we see is this recognized spend. I use the image of it from a client. I covered their name because I don't know if it's okay to share it or not. And I like this way because really what you're doing is you're just recognizing your sponsors for what they're already spending with you. So essentially, you take up their total spend for the entire year, and then they receive a certain level of benefits based upon that. In this example, the association said, look, if you spend between $100,000 and $200,000 with us, we'll give you an extra $18,000 in credits to buy and do more sponsorship items. And then you get all these additional items. These are items that are not necessarily for sale, so you're not losing any revenue on them. However, these are things that sponsors are looking for. They want exclusivity, they want first choice. So the very first bullet that we see here is this first choice of exhibit space for their two largest conferences. They also offer discounting further below on other shows that maybe aren't as heavily utilized. They're doing that to really incentivize folks to, hey, try more of our shows, get involved at more of our conferences throughout the year. They're also offering first choice of new sponsorship opportunities, and then just kind of some additional extras in those meeting acknowledgments, extra promotions, and things like that. Oops. Oop, too far. Nope. There we go. So speaking of value, right, we want to make sure that our sponsors are getting good value from those packages or from those items that they're sponsoring. As mentioned earlier, we're seeing this gravitation away from the single coffee sponsorship that I keep using the example of $2,500, you get a coffee, your name is next to it, and that's kind of it. A single item sponsorship does not have to equal a single benefit. There's lots of groups that do really well at adding in a standard set of benefits across the board or added benefits based on price. If you reach this level, you get these extra benefits. But if you want to make sure that you're providing a good return and value for our sponsors, adding those extra benefits in is another way that they can kind of see that value with their commitment of what they're paying. I've provided two examples here. We'll start with the one on the right first. So this technology sponsor, really what they're doing is they're sponsoring the app. We've seen this so often, right? This is very popular sponsorship, and typically it's like your name will be on the app or your name will be the Wi-Fi password. What this group did was they added more into that. So not only do you get the sponsor of the app and of course the dedicated tab, they're also getting promotional posts in that app. They're getting a charging station with that company branding, and then they're also getting remarks from the stage. So it was a nice way to kind of up that ante a little bit for that mobile app sponsorship. Similarly, another way to do it is looking at the example on the left. With this group, we had actually interviewed their sponsors and took feedback from their sponsors of what they're looking for. And the number one thing their sponsors actually said was, we're paying so much money to sponsor it. We're paying so much money to go to the conference. If there was any sort of break on the registration, we would appreciate it. And so with that, they said, great, well, if you sponsor something, we'll give you a discount on the registration of the event. So that feedback was provided directly from the sponsors themselves. But that discount registration or those comp registrations, those are really appreciated. Recognition, of course, in the event promotion and marketing materials, the link to the sponsor and the event webpage. One thing that this group did here that I really liked is they actually have a special graphic or logo for this conference. And so they said, hey, we'll give you this graphic and you can use it on your own materials. It's a great thing to add on LinkedIn or on emails or, any sorts of materials that you send out prior. So again, this is a nice way to kind of engage your sponsors in another level within those benefits. Along those lines, we get the sponsor, they're happy, right? We want to keep them happy after the show. What are they looking for to keep them happy? Well, first and foremost, it doesn't matter anything else, they want returns, right? So leads is first and foremost. If they go to the conference, they want to walk away with business cards, they want to walk away with meetings set up, and some groups they're even walking away with contracts. There's one group I know of that every year everybody goes there, they bring their contracts, that's where they get all that business. That 1 week in December in Florida, that's where all the contracts are signed. We can't always guarantee that, right? As an association, it's hard to guarantee that they're necessarily going to get those contracts right away. What we can control are sharing of the metrics that show that additional value. So post-event, all your sponsors should be getting number of attendees that were there, the breakdown of their titles, the satisfaction score of attendees, and if you provide it, an attendee list or some fraction of an attendee list if you have to scrub it for information. And then digital metrics. If you're saying as part of your package, you get event promotion on our website and mention in a marketing email, we'll share those digital metrics with the sponsor, right? Yes, we sent out that email showing that you were a sponsor and it went to this many people and this many people opened it. That provides that additional value and allows them to start to put some measurement around something that sometimes is immeasurable if they're not getting the leads right away. The other area that we keep them happy is with engagement, right? We want to be promoting their sponsorship, tag the sponsor on social media, include pictures. We had this event, this reception. We are so glad that these people are our sponsors. This allows the sponsors to engage themselves as well. So they can promote that and say, yes, we're so excited to be a sponsor there. It gets more eyes and more visibility on something outside of just that event because other people will see that the company was a sponsor than those that were just at the event themselves. Communication is really critical. This is one that we hear very frequently from sponsors. They want communication pre, during, and post. So if they send in their paperwork and they said they're going to sponsor this event, that should not be the end of it, right? We're keeping close communication with them around the deliverables that we need to be receiving from them. We need to make sure that we're sharing if they're speaking at an event or if they're providing remarks. We need to make sure they know when and where to be there and really kind of make them feel like a VIP, particularly for those that are spending a good amount of money. Along those lines, recognition and thank you. This is another thing that I've heard from sponsors. Yes, they like the recognition on the stage, but we've heard people say it'd be really nice to have the CEO come up and say thank you, right? Like we've sponsored year after year. I don't even think the CEO knows who we are. So making sure, particularly if you're the sponsorship salesperson or the meeting planner, make sure that you're facilitating some of those connections with the senior leadership staff of the association, with the sponsor itself. It really does go a long way. Now, once you put these packages together, so this is kind of the next phase of it, right? We've talked about getting the package together. We've talked about the offerings in live and digital. How do we build our prospectus? Well, these are just some kind of things to keep in mind when you're building out the prospectus. First of all, we want to move away from the idea of just covering your cost. Again, with the coffee example, covering the cost of a gallon of coffee or 5 gallons or whatever they put them in the carafes, and really looking at making some profitability. As a nonprofit association, it is okay to make money on these, right? This is where a lot of associations are making their revenue. So it's okay to have that profitability and that margin on top. That being said, we want to make sure that that price is reflective of the audiences in the market. So if it is a CEO focused event, then the price is probably a little bit higher and pricier than that of an event with more, junior managers or something like that. Speaking of those managers and who's at your event, make sure to include demographics of attendees in that prospectus. Who's there? Why should they sponsor? These are things that the sponsors want to see, and it helps them to make this to decide if this is the right fit for them. Within those sponsorship options, we want to see a mix of networking, thought leadership, and branding opportunities. These are those buckets that sponsors are looking for. It's one of the first questions I ask a sponsor when I'm selling something to them is kind of what is your goal? What are you trying to do? Or what do you typically like to do? And they like to put themselves in these buckets. They say, we really like doing networking events, or there's kind of a battle between some of the brands, so we want branding. So it allows them to kind of choose where they want to go. So you want to make sure you're representing those three buckets, inclusive, of course, of also the digital retargeting in those options within that prospectus. And then start simple. If you don't have a very robust sponsorship program right now, you don't have to move from 0 to 60. Right? You can start and just kind of add more on year by year. Find out what's positive, what's being purchased, what people are liking, or you can customize it based on feedback. As I said, some of the best sponsorship ideas I've gotten have come from sponsors themselves that said, this is something we did in another event. Would you be open to doing that? And it ended up being great for everybody, for the sponsor and for the association. The members loved the event. So, package is ready, prospectus is ready. What do you do next? What's now? Well, first of all, there is no such thing as it sells itself. You can have the best prospectus, you can have all the data, you can have all the benefits. You still need strong sales. That's either somebody to sell it for you, somebody that's, maybe it's the meeting planner that's also selling it, but somebody needs to be dedicated to following up with these prospects. That means answering their questions. What do I get? Who's going to be there? If there's specific set questions they have, I get specific questions all the time. Well, I'm looking for this type of manager. Do you have those people there? And then I go back and find just that information. We want to make sure that we're showing value and we're expressing that value to them verbally. measuring, talking about that measurable ROI that we can provide. And one of the sales tactics we like to use a lot is really the cost relative to the business opportunity. So oftentimes if somebody's interested in something, oh, I don't know, it's kind of a lot of money. If say we're saying it's $20,000. Well, I say, well, how many deals do you need to get back $20,000? And particularly for these big corporate events, they say, well, I need 1/5 of a deal, right? It's $100,000 to buy my product. So if I get one deal, make back my money. Well, great. That's an easy sell for somebody. Okay, I put in 20 grand, I get 100 back. That's awesome. And then, of course, there's the follow-up. So for most part, many sponsors, spending money is not their top priority. If they're in sales, their top priority is sales. If they're in marketing, they've got a million conferences that they're doing. Somebody needs to be following up with them to make sure that they're closing that deal, that it's happening. We want to create a sense of urgency, and we want to mention the expiration of the benefits, particularly as we start developing these packages where there's additional benefits, that encompass outside just the event itself. We want to make sure that they know, hey, if you sign on now, you get to go out in the pre-mailer or something like that. But we need to be staying on them to make sure that they're not missing out on any of those benefits that start to expire as the conference gets closer and closer. So I give a lot of information. I always like to end in next steps. What is, kind of where can we go from here? So what are your goals as an association, right? This plan or your sponsorship plan should be reflective of that. Do you need to make a lot of money to keep up with something? Are you trying to cover your costs? First, you have to say with why are we trying to do this? What is our goal? The next step I would take a look at is what are those opportunity gaps in non-dues revenue? So that first chart that we showed, what are you covering and what have you not covered, right? Where is there money still on the table? And then what can we adopt first, easiest, and most cost effective? So somebody told me once, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, right? So what is the easiest thing that we can adapt or enact, excuse me, and sell? And maybe it's not a huge gamble cost-wise either, but it's something that we can add and take on as we start to move and enhance our sponsorship program moving forward. And then I'll pass it back to Isa.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Elizabeth. I feel like that was really helpful on a tactical level. So hopefully people feel like they can walk away with some action items from this and some templates for building this out. So thank you so much. And thanks, Brock, for providing the Feathr side and talking about sponsor retargeting, because I think it is really important for organizations to be thinking about ways to take sponsorships digital, to offer sponsors, different ways to reach their audience, other than just at live events. So yeah, thank you both. We want to open it up to questions from both the audience, and we also have some questions for you all too. So I do see one question in the chat. Elizabeth, if you want to take this one from Kevin.
Sure. I was actually just getting ready to draft that. Kevin, it depends. Right. So as long as you know, legally, you have to make sure that non-members have the opportunity to attend the event. So if they're able to attend and go and register, you're covered. You are not obligated to let them be a sponsor. However, I think you would have to take a look at kind of what is being purchased so far. If you're selling out and it is exclusively members and you're running out of inventory, maybe not. But if you're not selling out, there's room for growth. I would look at adding to non-members and then potentially increasing the price for that. So the member benefit is the discount that they receive. If they're a member, they get discounts on those sponsorships. But also you have to take a pulse of your board and of your members and make sure that that's something that kind of flies with them as well.
And just to clarify, Jesse, Kevin's question was about offering sponsorships to associate or business members and not allowing non-members to sponsor.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I should have said
No,
that.
you're fine. Okay, cool. So just to quickly confirm, we will be sending out the deck and the recording tomorrow. So check your email inboxes for that tomorrow morning if you want to revisit anything or share it with colleagues. And obviously drop questions in the chat, if you have any, but we also would love to open up the floor for some responses to these questions. So if you have something you'd like to share, I will unmute you. I'm 99% sure I'll be able to do that, but we're playing around with Zoom here. So starting with this question here. So for you audience members, what non-traditional sponsorship opportunities have you found value in that you've tried? So if anyone would like to volunteer to share an idea here, go ahead and raise your hand and I will. Cool, Heather. Okay, let's start with you. Allowed to talk. Perfect. All right, go for it.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah.
What we do a lot of offsite sessions at our conference, and one thing that has worked in the past for sponsorships um, is giving advertisements on the buses. So a lot of times buses will have little screens and stuff now, and so folks will sponsor the offsite events, and then we'll just put their ads on the buses.
Excellent.
Nice.
Utilizing downtime that they have on the bus.
Yep, nothing to do but look look in front of you. Thanks, Heather. Does anyone else have something they'd like to share? Our board is reluctant to look too commercial with website and e-news ads. Any ideas to counter that? Elizabeth, have you got anything for in that realm?
Yeah, I mean, I think the easiest is to be very limited in it, right? So we've got some groups that won't do any ads on the front page, on the homepage, that is to say. They'll only do it on certain ones. Um, Easiest and most utilized probably is like a job board or directory. If you have a membership directory or supplier directory, that's a good place to do it. But I think short answer is probably just trying to limit exactly where those ads are. Brock, did you have any thoughts on that in regards to like retargeting and everything? Because you guys don't use the ads on the site, right? It's like they go to other sites.
Right, yeah, we use display networks to share ads on other websites. I think the ads themselves can either look commercial or, have a little bit of fun flair. Um, if uh, if you're interested, I could share maybe in the email that goes out some ideas of ads that don't look the way that you would expect a normal sponsored ad to look, that are a little bit more fun and engaging and might counter that little commercial issue that Catherine was referring to.
And I think what's nice about sponsored retargeting too is you're basically serving those sponsor ads directly on behalf of them. So people who are on the receiving end of that aren't really associating you with that ad that they're seeing, right? You're taking the sponsor's ad that they might otherwise be putting out into the world themselves, and you're serving that for them to your audience. So they're seeing it as they're browsing on Facebook, they're looking at, recipes online, news, reading the news, whatever. They're seeing it in those little ad slots that we all see pop up. Sometimes they're kind of long horizontal, ads. Sometimes it's on the side there, vertical or square. But like those are basically just ad slots that are constantly available for something to populate. And so those can be your ads, they can be your sponsors' ads, but people are just basically seeing them as they're browsing online. And so if you're showing a sponsor's ad, they're just seeing what's in that ad. So if the sponsor is just promoting some product that they're selling, they're just going to see it as if it were an ad that they were seeing directly from that company. So I think that can help with just removing yourself from that process of like being connected with what's being sold. So that helps make you feel less salesy, but still providing the sponsor with that direct access to sell to people.
That's a great point. You're not actually necessarily connected with the ad itself at all. That would be on your sponsor.
Yep. And then obviously, the more they can do to make the ad impactful and effective, the better. But that is on the sponsor. I think, uh, Elizabeth, how do you feel like you're pretty involved in the sponsor side of things when you're kind of trying to get them to put things together? Are you helping them put things together in a way that's going to be as impactful as possible, following best practices, or do you often kind of leave it to sponsors to do whatever they think will work best for them?
For ads, you mean?
Yeah, for ads or just anything. Yeah.
Um, I think that they can use a little bit more guidance.
Yeah.
I've seen some like really cruddy, outdated ads
Yeah.
before. And oftentimes, depending on the size of the sponsor, they might not even have the resources, right? Like someone's doing basically clip art in their
Yep.
office. Um, we do our with our publishing side of business, we will actually do house ads for advertisers if they don't have one. I think that's helpful to have, a professional graphic design firm do that to give it a better, more professional look. But again, I also think it's where it's posted. I sometimes I do find those ads unattractive, where if you are on the homepage and the first thing you see is that traditional square on the right-hand side, I know that's great. I know that's what sponsors want to see, but or advertisers want to see to know kind of that before the fold, if you will. But I think it messes with the look of the website. So you've got to really take both into consideration and balance that out.
For sure. And like we've said a few times, I mean, there's just limited real estate there, right? It's like you can have five different sponsors and you're switching things out constantly, or you can provide them with just that kind of unlimited access to your audience wherever those people are browsing online. And their ads will be sure to show up for those people, but without taking up space on your homepage and without you having to, constantly be switching things out and trying to please multiple sponsors. Um, Okay, Mary asked, share an animated retargeting. I will send out, Brock, you and I can chat after this and see what might be a good resource to share, just to kind of help paint the picture a little more clearly for people who are not familiar with retargeting, but we can definitely share something there. And then let's see. Okay, let's get to the next, if you want to switch to the next slide, Elizabeth.
Yeah,
Um,
this is the second one. Yeah.
oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyone who wants to share a response to this one, so how have your sponsors' expectations changed as opportunities move digital? So, would be interesting to hear if any of you are offering some of the digital, sponsorship offerings that we've talked about, or if you're moving in that direction, or feel like sponsors are maybe expecting new types of modern sponsorships as things sort of evolve in that direction. So if anyone would like to share anything, go ahead and raise your hand and I'll unmute you. Or drop something in the chat if you're not feeling like speaking. That's totally fine too.
So in the meantime, I know there's a couple questions we can answer. Kevin said, we have an online flip version magazine now, not printed, and no one is interested in advertising in that. Any ideas what to do? So I guess, Kevin, my first question would be, do you have any sorts of demographics on the readers in the media kit for the magazine, right? So we want to make sure that it's valuable. Do we have information on everyone that's reading it, how many people it's going to, if you have any measurements on the length of time that people are reading the online magazine, things like that. That's a good starting point to make sure that that's really valued by the sponsors. So I would take a look at that first. And then the other thing I would take a look at is if you're offering any advertorial space. That is a nice kind of way to get sponsors in if they want to get away from just, uh, you know, traditional advertisements. It's a great way for them to, again, fill in that thought leadership bucket that we talked about. They want to share content and information. Obviously, there's some guidelines around that about what they can do and what it looks like, and your editorial team can help you with that. But an advertorial is a great way to get in some advertising revenue that might be a little stalled.
So I see a question from Shauna. Hopefully I'm pronouncing your name correctly. We put out a bi-weekly newsletter. Is this something we can add a sponsor to? It's not large, just updates for events and member benefits. I feel like that's a pretty common place that advertisers will put a sponsored ad sometimes. Elizabeth, do you feel like this is still a relevant offering for sponsors?
Yeah, yeah. I would say I think the biweekly newsletters actually tend to go pretty well, but again, it all depends on your demographics, how many people are subscribing to it, how many are opening it, what's typically included in it. Typically, it's a lower price point, which advertisers like as well. And then, of course, you can use those tracking links in there also, so the sponsor can get an idea of who's going to their site and what they're doing.
Yeah. And I do think more and more sponsors will be expecting sort of hard data and metrics to back up the value that you're saying that you're providing. So The more you can use tracked links when you're promoting them in newsletters, or even in, you know, I guess direct mail pieces using QR codes with tracked links, things like that. There's a lot you can do to track the effectiveness of the ads that you're putting out there for sponsors. And then, of course, using a platform like Feathr or another marketing platform to run those sponsored retargeting ads. You can see everything in the platform, share the dashboard even so the sponsor can see what's happening in real time in terms of ad impressions, clicks to the landing page that they're trying to get people to go to, things like that. So I think tracking metrics and being able to provide that in as sort of tangible a way as possible to sponsors is going to be more and more important. Um, oh yeah, let's go to the next one. So once again, if anyone wants to chime in on this, go ahead. So what surprises you most about what sponsors actually value versus what you thought they would? Would love to hear any insights on this. And then I'm gonna also, while we wait, I'm gonna run a quick poll just because I know people will probably start hopping off at this 10 minute to the hour mark. If you're interested in getting a more personalized walkthrough of either Big Red M services or the Feathr platform, go ahead and answer this poll, and we will hook you up with someone who can have those conversations with you. So if you're interested in Big Red M services, trying to, run more impactful sponsorships, getting support around that, they're great. We've been partnered with them for a while and really, really excited to be able to have you on here, Elizabeth, talking about this. I know that, yeah, you guys do an amazing job with helping member-based orgs do better with their sponsorships. So great
Thank you.
stuff there. And then, yeah, Feathr also offers email marketing, digital advertising that you can do for your own organization's efforts, as well as the sponsored retargeting that we've talked about. So cool. I see some yeses coming in here. So just keep that up for a while. But let's go back to the questions. The time on stage at our plenaries is very important and productive to our sponsors. Yeah, it kind of comes back to what you were saying about letting people MC or just kind of have presence on the stage.
Mhm. Yeah, one of the things that surprised me in working with sponsors over the years is that really like wanting to highlight not only like their product or their service, but really like human capital. So we've had companies that were like, we just hired this person from, Bell Labs or whatever, and they're really known in this space, and we want to make a splash and let everybody know that, he or she is working here now. And I always thought that was kind of surprising. I never thought about highlighting an individual or a staffer at their company, but in some of those spaces, those things are really important and really valued. And that stage time or that press release or that thought leadership, those are great ways to highlight something like that.
And I think that comes back to like remembering to ask the sponsor what it is that they're looking to get out of the relationship too, right? Not limiting yourself to however you've defined sponsorships at your organization historically, but thinking about what the goals are for the sponsor and getting creative with how you can offer that to them in new
Mhm.
ways.
Mhm.
Um, Okay, Kevin said, we haven't had great success getting people interested in the ad retargeting program and wonder if there are any tips in promoting that to our association member or associate members. Brock, you might be able to talk more about that. I think that comes down to having resources to package and pitch that effectively because it is kind of a little complicated, I think, to
Okay.
explain and educate people on, but we do have some resources around that as well. But Brock, I'll let you talk
Yeah,
more about it.
the media kit is essential. I don't know what yours looks like, but if you have the resources and time to make a like perfect media kit, I promise you will get a lot more interest. Another thing that you can consider is packaging sponsored retargeting with other sponsorship programs that you offer and getting people kind of a taste, giving them a taste of what sponsored retargeting is because if they try it, it's like many things. If you try it once, you'll be back for more, I guess.
Mhm.
I know for the group that we worked with Feather on for the one trade show that we were doing retargeting for. We actually started it at kind of a lower price point to get folks in. We had to build some history. There wasn't much tracking going on there. And so our team started off kind of that and have increased that price year over year as the sponsors have started to see that value, and we have more history to go off of as well.
Cool. Yeah, glad that was helpful, Kevin. I think even just thinking about the slide that you had up, Elizabeth, that showed the, I think, $5,500 package price, like you could add on a certain number of impressions within a certain time frame and increase that by like 3,000 or whatever makes sense for you.
Mhm.
So yeah, bundling it with things that feel more familiar is a good way to kind of test the waters and get people used to it. Okay, what sponsors value? We recently added a room sponsorship and was very surprised by the amount of interest. Yeah, we actually saw that. Brock and I were at Nonprofit Storytelling Conference in San Diego a couple weeks ago, and we saw Feathr actually sponsored one of the rooms. So sometimes we were in the Feathr room, but there were a couple other platforms that were sponsors. And so, yeah, there was like the Feathr room, the Bloomerang room. So that's definitely a great way to kind of put it all, it's like it's in the instructions in the app, like you need to be going to this room, you see it on the door. So like it's one of those things where it's just the room, but you kind of see that listed everywhere and the name is yeah, just kind of very present throughout the conference. So it's a good one for sure. All right, well, yeah. When raising prices, what talking points help sponsors understand the added value? So yeah, if anyone has any talk tracks or go-to talking points that have worked with just kind of getting sponsors on board with maybe adding more to the package or simply increasing the price. Heather, go ahead.
Hi. We have a golf outing. It's actually not many because a lot of people in my industry just don't golf, but we've added that a few years ago because I like golfing. And so now we have about 10 people. And at the last golf outing, we were just very transparent with the sponsors about how much things cost at an event. And they had no idea. And any of us who are in that business know how much costs have gone up in the last 10 years. And that kind of it was just a sort of turning point for the amount that they were willing to sponsor for next year. So yeah,
Yeah,
transparency, I guess, is the point.
Yeah.
yeah,
And it's not strange or unknown to sponsors. Like everybody knows cost of living has gone up, that there's inflation's been rough. I have one client we were doing membership dues for. Their dues go up by the cost of living. We calculated it out. It's gone up 22% in 5 years, their dues have, because they're just keeping up with the market, right? So everybody knows this. It's on top of their head, or top of their mind that's what's going on, and we need to cover that. If you're outside of that, and it's not necessarily specific to just the cost of living. If you can show, increase in attendees, if you can show increase in engagement, length of time, you're giving them more time with the members, things like that. Those are all points that would substantiate a higher price, higher price point, as well as, of course, if you're selling out, right? If you're getting sellouts and you're running out of inventory, obviously raise the price.
Thanks, Jesse, for sharing that resource in the chat. I would recommend anyone to click on it who hasn't yet, but there's a pretty good breakdown of some pricing for different levels of sponsorships, um, different specific offerings. So this is very cool. Okay, well, we've got 2 minutes left, so we'll give maybe 15, 20 seconds in case there's another question, but I think we'll go ahead and start wrapping it up. Thank you again so much, Elizabeth, for joining us today. It's been wonderful to have you.
Thanks for having me.
And
Thanks for everyone for participating as well.
yeah, thanks, Brock, for hopping on.
Thank you, Brock.
Cool. Thanks everyone for joining. And like I said, we'll be sending this out tomorrow. So keep an eye out in your email inbox for this and some more resources. Thanks. See you on the
Thank
next
you.
one.
Have a good one.
Bye.